You're overwhelmed. Freeze was underwhelmed. Why isn't anyone ever...
Oh, God damn it! Is it just frozen or what's going on here? There we go. Okay. Let's let it load. Another time. I don't... Oh my god! Okay, let's do this one more time. So, for those of you who were not watching the dumpster fire live, I tried to record a live reaction to the Xbox showcase, and my internet is crap here. That's why I haven't been doing podcast or streaming or anything like that. Why I've kind of reverted to React. I've been working on pre-made content because it's that the internet's just here awful. So like it was borderline unwatchable. I tried to salvage it as best I could, but it just wasn't going to work. And I even tried to not stream it and just record it locally. My computer was acting up. It put me into a sour mood, so I stopped the presentation halfway through, and I was just like, okay, like, I can't react to this, I can't record this, but I still want to talk about this. So let's talk about this Xbox presentation at first, because initially I wasn't going to do any content for this. In previous years, I've always done let's say, live tweeted or threads or this or that. And it's just, first off, I don't like it because it gets buried. And then second off, like, it's just, it's hard to go back and look to, like, oh, what did I think about this or that? I still, the video is a lot easier to pull up my raw thoughts in the moment. But the thing is, like, I don't have an Xbox. I'm not planning to get an Xbox at any point. The Xbox ecosystem isn't something that speaks to me. So, going into this, I was having a discussion with a friend of, like, should I even do anything? Should I even react? Because it just seems disingenuous to watch a presentation that I really have no skin in for and no allegiance to. So, and I went back and forth, and his base thing was, like, if I'm doing, obviously I didn't do Summer Games Fest because I thought that was going to be, Jeff shows are always kind of, okay, little long, a little bloated, but I love Summer Games Fest. I thought it was great, it was fantastic, all this other stuff, and then you look online and people are like, like, that was awful, that was just, well, why Sonic and Prince of Persia full price, blah, 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 they're like, basically, that's why I decided to still do some form of a react and a video and all this other stuff. So it's going to be a slightly different video type because, I'm not going to be doing a live reaction. I've already seen the presentation. I've seen these intros like 4 fucking times. Which we'll get into in a second, but so this isn't it's more just like a recap or a review of the presentation as a whole, compared to a moment by moment breakdown. But we're still gonna go through and talk about everything that was shown, everything that was discussed, and the highs, the lows, and the middlings. But overall, baseline, if I had to give this a score or a value or whatever, like, I'm sorry, it's a B minus. Like, you look at the games shown, and there was you can't say like, oh, there was no games. Like, obviously Xbox has games. It's a little bit of like a joke or whatever. Like, oh, I the more apt thing is like their first party, but to say Xbox doesn't have games is ridiculous. They showed a bunch of different games, a bunch of different genres, a bunch of different developers. If you have an Xbox, you definitely have games to play. You are not going to be lacking compared to other platforms. But I don't know. It's 2023, and we're still having this argument of like, all right, what's the first party do? What are they doing? What are they working on? What's going on with 2024? And even right here, they came out before and they were like, hey, no CGI trailers. They're all gonna be at least some degree of gameplay and in-engine footage and this and that, and like, oh, nope, no pure CGI trailer. And then what do? They start the conference with 3 CGI trailers. And now if you want to get in semantics, because they do these 3 trailers, and then they go into it. So I'm sure some of the semantics snarky people are gonna be like, well, that wasn't part of the presentation, that was before, because they didn't do the, and like, I don't know, it's and there's other ones, because I did write everything down. You even have stuff like Microsoft Flight Simulator has an update, which I don't know if it got an official title, but it was basically like, hey, it's not just flying a commercial plane. They had like someone was installing a power line tower, and someone was like doing a search and rescue, and someone was like aggregating a field, and like all these different jobs and uses you can do for aerial vehicles. And I actually think that's a really cool idea. Like, it gives players something to do besides just fly from here to there, fly different stuff. You have like the stunt planes, you have skydiving planes, you have cargo planes, and this and that. Like, it's a really cool thing, but they didn't exactly explain how that works. And like, as someone who is not big into the flight sims, okay, technically that was not a CGI trailer because it was all in-engine stuff. But like, for me, I'm very much like, okay, like, well, but how does that work? What's going on? How do you do all this other stuff? Like, what's going on with that? Like, it's they that was one where, sure, like, it wasn't a CGI trailer, but they didn't show any actual gameplay or mechanics or like a HUD or any of that other stuff. So to me, like, it feels like a semantics argument of like, well, hey, we said no, pre-rendered CGI stuff, and like, that's in game, but I still have no idea how that works, how that functions. Like, and that's one where I feel like showing actual gameplay would help. Because it's one thing to say, like, oh, cool, you're gonna, you're a helicopter, you lower a tower onto a power line. But, like, how does that work realistically in terms of the gameplay, this and that? Excuse me. And then stuff like Hellblade. Also, complete CGI. Again, it was a cutscene, if you want to get semantics, like, oh, this is in-game stuff. But, like, I don't know. It just... I was already frustrated from the technical issues, and then they set it off on the wrong foot by having so much. Because again, their whole thing was like, we have no pre-rendered CGI cutscenes, or whatever. And then look at this. This is here. And again, I'm sure people will go, well, actually, blah blah blah. Because once they got past this, again, aside from like, the first 3 were very CG tone setters. The rest are semantics. Because even, what is it? Yeah, you had certain stuff like Clockwork Revolution, which, like, again, was all in-game, but there wasn't a HUD or anything like that. So, again, I know they didn't say specifically everything was going to be gameplay, but I do feel like just a little... Much like their thing last year, where it's like, oh, everything in the next 12 months... which we'll get into later, because that also affected this year. But I feel like with them saying, like, oh, hey, all of this stuff are no pre-rendered CGI, I just feel like there were a lot of games where you kind of got the basic idea. What is it? Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, also was a CGI, like, cutscene. But, like, there was no gameplay shown or this or that. And yes, again, I understand for a series like a Dragon, you don't need a detailed gameplay breakdown. People understand what that is. But it feels a little disingenuous to hype it up to make that statement, and then get real lawyer, real shenanigan with it. It's like, okay, well, technically, no, like, if you're gonna say, hey, no CGI trailers, no CGI trailers, full stop, period. Don't add a caveat. Don't go, well, okay, no. And I generally feel like that's, because even with last year, when they did, no, or everything in the next 12 months, and majority hit them, like 60-70%, but it was still significant enough to say, like, okay, well, that wasn't entirely true. Some stuff is out of their hands, like Silksong, and then you have stuff like Starfield and Forza, which is like coming out in October, where it's like, okay, so a lot of your big stuff that you had said was going to come out in 12 months didn't. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't rush games. Don't do this and that. But, like, I feel like Microsoft always, with these presentations, try and have their cake and eat it too. Because even at the end, where Phil was like, we have 30 games and like 14 partners and like all this other stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, if you're looking at it in terms of like a spreadsheet and oh, well, okay, this technically, like, like the fact that whenever you bring like technicalities into these arguments, I feel personally that kind of hampers the excitement a bit, because, and I personally believe that the Summer Game Fest showing was a far better showing because there wasn't that caveat, there wasn't that of like, oh, okay, well, like, Jeff set the expectation properly. Hey, we're gonna have these so and so games. Mortal Kombat's gonna be there. Like, I felt going in, we knew a bit better. With this one, I don't know. It just didn't bring it, and I think that's genuinely disappointing. But yeah. So, as I kick the mic. But yeah. So, the other big one, I guess, before we go into a more detailed deep dive, is, again, like I said, doing last year, doing all in the next 12 months. I understand that burned them. They got a lot of slack for that, rightfully so. And they even said, in this one, beforehand, they were like, okay, we're not going to, we're not gonna do that this year. We're gonna have stuff in 2024. We're gonna, the dates are gonna be a little bit more nebulous. Like, we're not gonna have this strict timeline to hold us back, which is understandable. I think the issue is, yes, like, even right here, like, so many titles were just 2024, 2024, 2024. Like, it's one thing to say, okay, like, I think if a few titles, even like 4 or 5, are like, okay, this, if it was only a few titles, but pretty much like majority of them are just 2024, nebulous, whatever, we don't know. And I understand they don't want to be locked in. They don't want to say, even, for a game like in March and be like locked, that's 9 months away. They're like, okay, we don't want to make that commitment until we know the game's going to come out. I can understand that. I can respect that. But by the same token, you do have to call that out, that a lot of their titles do not have dates. So we're in the same ballpark where we were before this, where it's, okay, what's on the future of Xbox? Like, what's coming, in the foreseeable future? And right now, it's Forza and Starfield. And those are both, September, October. That's it. Stuff's coming eventually. Like, and, again, I was very disappointed by the PlayStation presentation. Like, a lot of the stuff, like, even like Fair Games and all this other stuff, they too also have a lot of games that we just don't know details about. We don't know what Sucker Punch is doing. We don't know what's going on with factions. Again, stuff like Fair Games didn't have a gameplay or this, but coming out of, because the main stuff is done now. It's just Ubisoft and Capcom and all the smaller companies. But now that the big showcases have done, I feel like we're coming out of the fall, and it's like, okay, so there's nothing to look forward to in the fall for the most part. Again, you have stuff like Assassin's Creed, you have Forza, Starfield, all this other stuff. There's definitely games to play. Mortal Kombat, like there's not gonna be. It's not like it's gonna be dry, but compare it to especially May, June, and like the start of the year where we're getting all these awesome games. The fall definitely seems a bit lighter in comparison. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a bit disappointing that both PlayStation and Xbox, we don't really have a firm, solid understanding of their future. Even with Nintendo, like once Pikmin comes out, we don't have an understanding of what's coming down the pipeline. And yes, again, we're still dealing with the effects of the pandemic. We're still dealing with this and that. It's just upsetting, I guess, for the most part. Like again, I'm sure once the tally is done and whatever, they've probably announced not just here but also like the Summer Games Fest and all this other stuff. There's probably a good 40, 50 games that are already slated for 2024. So there will definitely be stuff to play. It is just a bit disappointing of okay, so excluding Starfield, Game of the Year discussion is pretty much done. I don't really see anything popping up and surprising us in the last minutes. But yeah, so with all my long rambliness out of the way and Persona 5 going, again, 2024. As I smack that mic. But yes, so let's go and do a detailed breakdown. I'm not going to do every single one, just the stuff that stood out to me. But yeah, so again, you had Fable at the start with a CGI cutscene. I know I just ran on that as a whole rambly thing, but I think even for Fable specifically, you need a gameplay. We haven't seen this game in years. Yes, I know the initial was I think a lot of people get upset with these long, drawn-out development cycles. I've been talking to someone on Twitter about Kingdom Hearts and all the other stuff. And the thing for me personally, as the type of consumer I am, I don't mind going hey, show me a teaser trailer to announce the project, to tell me you're working on it. Because the one I find very, a very good example is the next Tomb Raider. They announced it at a Unreal 5 engine showcase thing where the team at Crystal Dynamics was just yep, we're working on it. It's on Unreal. All right, bye. And it's that's how you're announcing the next Tomb Raider. I don't even know how many people remember. With Avengers, you had that initial teaser, and it was just a minute long cinematic trailer of just all the different Avengers and their weapons and whatnot. And then they went away for a while, and then the next time they came back, it was the E3 presentation. And me personally, I am fine with that. Announce your game, say you're working on it, then go away for 5 years. Don't tell me nothing. And then when the game is 80-90% done, then do the marketing hype, then build it up, because you have a rough idea of what you're gonna hit, when you're gonna get there, all this other stuff. So the fact that Fable had that teaser for the longest time, and then nothing. We come back, and then another just another CG trailer. The humor's cool, the style's cool, but cool, we still don't know what it is. We know the guy from the IT crowd is in it and all this other stuff, but we really don't know much about Fable. I'm trying to see here if I scroll back. Waiting. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there is a date. Yep, see, nope, no date. So how are you going to re-reveal Fable with no gameplay, no release date, or don't reveal it then? Again, I understand Microsoft is in this weird place that, they want they might have had a date going into this. Like, this might have at least given us a year, and then after Redfall's debacle and everything, they were like, nope, everything is on lockdown. We are not releasing any more buggy games. Like, we cannot do this. So yeah, I you know, even what is it? Even Last of Us Factions, like, it hasn't technically been officially revealed, which infuriates my soul. But it's like, okay, cool, like, because again, like, they showed concept art at Summer Game Fest 2022. They've discussed it, like, they've been very open about it, but they haven't actually revealed the game. So it's so annoying. Where, like, we know that's in development, we know that's happening, but we haven't actually seen anything of the game. Me personally, just give us a title. I really don't care about anything else right now. Just give us a title. Just say it's Factions. Say it's gangs or rivals or whatever. But just give us something. So yeah, I'm sorry. It's disappointing. Like, if they didn't have anything to say for Fable aside from the cast, you could have done a Twitter post about that. You could have done a blog post about that. Like, to be here at the showcase, to do a presentation without a release date, without gameplay, without even any of that other stuff, like, I can't excuse it. I'm sorry. But yeah, then we have this one here, South of Midnight, another CGI trailer, but looks very dope. Also first party, but again, I don't know what the game is, so I can only be so excited. Then they did the intro, blah 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 blah. Very PR-y. Oh, we love Xbox Gamer, but, like, I understand this is PR speak. I don't know. It's just a little disingenuous. After that, they went into 33 Immortals from the Spiritfarer team. Looks cool. 33 player co-op. Cool. Payday 3. A game we know about, but I believe this was, like, the first public showing of it. And I'm trying to see. I was just gonna say, I also don't believe this one has a release date. But yeah, so we'll move on from that. Persona 3 Reloaded, which is the remake, which got leaked. Would have been a nice pop, a nice reveal. This one I don't blame Xbox. That was entirely the Atlas person. Yeah, they fucked up, but still a good grab for Xbox. We saw a bit more of Avowed, which the thing that freaked me out was the fact that obviously we've only had the small teaser. Wow, did I talk? Yeah. We only had the small teaser, but for the longest time, like, and I don't mean this in a rude, disparaging way, but, like, I've always considered Obsidian, like, Bethesda light, just because in terms of, like, Bethesda has Fallout, Obsidian has Fallout New Vegas, Bethesda has what is it? What is it? Starfield, and then Obsidian has the Outer Wilds. And, like, they're very similar styles and vibes and tones and all this other stuff. So watching the Avowed trailer, I was very interested how they. Well, first off, they have the guns and all this other stuff. It's very different from Elder Scrolls, I guess, would be the main takeaway. Apparently, this is part of a different franchise. I don't know. I've never heard of. I'm a dumb child. Unless it has a colon, I won't know. But yeah, see, like, they have guns. Like, it has its own styles, all this other stuff. Like, it's definitely not Elder Scrolls light. It's doing its own thing, which is cool to see. But I believe, checking my notes. Yeah, Avowed 2024. After that, they did the excuse me, the obligatory Sea of Thieves update. Although the thing I do like about this is, again, the game's been out long enough. It's one thing to say, oh, why is Rare still doing this? I think this game's got fantastic support. With all the updates, with the Pirates of the Caribbean thing, I know some people get wonky when they're like, oh, well, stop combining franchises. Not everything needs to be a crossover for all this other stuff. That's the reality where media is right now. And I much prefer it be something like this, like The Secret of Monkey Island or Pirates of the Caribbean, where it makes sense within the world, and it's not that like immersive break-in where it's like, cool, all right, it's other pirate stuff. Compared to like, let's say if they did like a Master Chief pirate ship, where it's like, okay, well, you're just doing that for the Easter egg, for the cameo, for all that other stuff, but like, it's a new story. It looks dope. It's very funny. Like, I don't. I think it's very cool. Again, as someone who does not have an Xbox or planning to, I feel like Sea of Thieves would be a great game to get into now that you have all those updates and DLCs and all that other stuff. It is just a bit disappointing that, where's Everwild? Where's anything new? Like, clearly it's working for Rare, but I kind of just wish they would stretch their legs a bit more. Yeah. So then there was a Microsoft flight sim, and then they also did they're doing a Dune ship update, which again, going back to Monkey Island, like they added the Pelican from Halo and all this other stuff. Like, yeah, okay, cool. If you want to talk about licenses and all this other stuff and immersion breaking, like, who really cares? Like, it's cool. Yeah, like that is not an actual ship, but it keeps the gameplay fresh. It's something new to look forward to. Like, it's unique, it's creative. Like, I would love to see other fantasy or sci-fi based vehicles and other stuff be added to the game, just as a cute little hey, like, again, like the fact that they're trying to change and like keep a flight sim so fresh. It's cool. Like, they didn't have to do it, but it's still cool. Like, I think it's a nice little. Okay, cool. Look at that. Moving on from that, I did Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Again, no with cutscene only trailer. 2024, no date. The game looks dope. The game looks fantastic. I never played the first one. Visuals are trippy. Visuals look fantastic. It's very disturbing and unnerving and like very trippy. Game looks fantastic. No shade here. Game looks good. I just do think it's a little upsetting that we didn't get a release date. After that was Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth with the Austin Power beach parody. Which, was very silly, very goofy, but like, it's on brand for Yakuza. What do you want? Like, excuse me. Yeah, just dude naked at the beach. Yeah, like this is one of those ones where, again, it's not it's in-game cutscenes. It's fun, but like, no, like, some, like, if you're gonna say no CGI, give me 10 seconds of gameplay. Just have some dude playing cards or something. I really don't care, but otherwise, don't make that bold statement if you can't meet it. Moving on from that, there's a Fallout 76 update. They're adding Atlantic City. That's cool. Neat. Capcom's doing some Path of the Goddess game. Looks cool. Not for me, but it's good to see Capcom, not rest on their laurels and try new stuff, do different stuff aside from, just the Resident Evils and the Street Fighters and all this other stuff. They did the next Forza, which the thing that freaked me out the most with that was just the fact that, it does not have a date, or it doesn't have a number. It's just Forza Motorsports, which is like a Mortal Kombat type deal, because it's like, are we just not naming it? Are we just going off a year? Like, because I believe this would be like Motorsport 7 or 8 at this point, but minor thing, not the end of the world. It's cool. It's very interesting that it's coming out in October, because not only is that a month after Starfield, that means they don't have a November game. And I know, like, we've moved past the point of needing a November game. Like, we don't you know, as evidenced by how many games just dropped in June. Not everything has to be about Black Friday anymore. Games can come out at any point of the year. But it is just like slightly interesting that they didn't like I I get because the game has been delayed so many times, and they just want it out as soon as possible. But like for me personally, at that point, like it's take the extra month, use extra polish, do what you can. I know the game's gonna be fantastic regardless, but okay, that's how they want to play their cards. After that, they did Elder Scroll update. Cool, it's coming June 20th. After that, the one that blew me away, and this is one of those ones where I'm like, okay, I want to read into this, is Overwatch 2 got an update video. And the thing I am very confused about is they're adding story DLC. Now, I know they said specifically, like, I think they had a skill tree that would carry over between different modes and different maps, and you could, like, once you level up your character in one mode, it would be across everything, all this other stuff. But yeah, they have cutscenes and talking and lines and delivery and all this other stuff, and it's okay. Like, I understand, maybe this video wasn't ready at time, all this other stuff, but when they did that, like, that live stream when they were announcing that they were getting rid of the single player content and all this other stuff, I feel like this video would have really taken away a lot of the hate and the vitriol and, like, the anger towards Overwatch. Because as they say here, they have new game modes, they have, where's my notes, they have a training mode, a firing range, they have the story DLC, they're adding new characters, all this other stuff. Like, this really does feel like a 2.0, for lack of a better term, but, like, cool, they're adding new characters, or adding new events, or they're adding, like, wow, there's lots of new stuff to look forward to in Overwatch. So I don't know why they did not. The trailer itself is good. I'm just very confused as why they did not say all of this 2-3 months ago or whatever it was. Like, I feel this would have gotten so much heat off of them when they did announce that they were shifting how the story DLC is done. And maybe it just might be simple. They wanted to do a more elaborate, like, Fortnite-esque, like, live story where, everyone plays at the same time, and it's an ongoing story and all this other stuff, and they're going to be like, nah, here's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Like, it's going to be a lot more linear, and then you just replay those same story chapters over and over and over to get a new high score or whatever. But no, like, this video is genuinely has me interested to at least check out the story content whenever it comes out. I don't know if I'm going to stay long after that, but, like, it at least has me interested, which is, something. Persona 5 Tactics, also leaked. Ultra unfortunate. Then they did a Starfield trailer, which is fine, but it's just very weird because not only do you have the Starfield Direct after, like, I always hate when people make the argument of, like, oh, you stole a spot, or, like, why was this trailer here, this should have been here, or this or that, and, like, but for me, like, why are you doing a Starfield trailer when in, like, 20 minutes you're gonna get a Starfield break? I guess because they assume not everyone is gonna watch that. Some people might just, like, fall off, so they wanted some form of Starfield representation, but first off, even, like, doing it at the end would have made more sense, but second off, like, just randomly doing it in the middle, it's like, by the way, don't forget, we're doing this other thing. It's the trailer itself was fine, it was just weird placement. After that, there was, Jusant, and then Still Wakes of the Deep, and Dungeons of Rittenberg, so that was the indie section, yeah, boop. Yeah, see, just right. Yeah, cool indie stuff. Like, again, this is the part where me personally, it did start to drag a little bit, but it was like, okay, you can't say Xbox doesn't have games. Like, if you have an Xbox, you will have games to play. might not necessarily be games you're interested in or games you like even care about, but there will be some reason to turn on the Xbox, which is neat. After that little segment, Keanu Reeves introduced the Cyberpunk DLC, which I don't know if he was if he's sick or what. His voice sounded slightly off. It sounded like kind of artificial and tinny and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people put a lot of well, at least me personally, I feel like the anime did a lot of the heavy lifting, and I know they've patched it and I know they've improved it, but like it's still just, the core base gameplay is just fine. And people act like it's done this huge revolutionary, like, oh, it's a completely different game now. Like, no, it's just fixed. The game is what it should have been at launch, before it launched early. And same with the DLC, where it's like, hey, it looks cool, but like, it's not blowing my socks off. If I'm huge into the anime, huge into the game, I could see myself popping more, but nah. After that, City Skylines 2, October, that's dope. Atlas Metaphor Re-Fantasy 2024 by the Persona team. Scrub-a-dub-dub. Whoop. Yep, by the Persona team. It's cool. God bless Xbox. They're really trying to get the Japanese market. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I know people get... I don't believe this is a console exclusive, but like... even for marketing and timed exclusives and all this other stuff, I know Microsoft's trying. They really want, like, God bless them. They've been trying for almost 30 years at this point. I just don't see it happening. I feel like you could use that resources for other stuff, but okay, cool. They met the check mark of having games for Japanese players. Towerborn was after that. Another cool. And then Clockwork Revolution, which I was trying to be polite to, but it was because I understand BioShock Infinite did not invent this style, but the entire time watching this, I'm like, oh, this is just a BioShock Infinite ripoff. Like, yes, I understand the what is it? The cyberpunk industrial revolution, like America aesthetic has been around before and all this other stuff, but it just, this gameplay, like, especially with the powers and time travel and this other stuff, like this, yeah, and excuse me as I die, yeah, and changing the future so that you're in a different universe and all this other stuff. It's just like, this game is literally BioShock Infinite. Like, I'm not trying to be cute or like, it very much gives me BioShock Infinite vibes, to the point where it's like, you're not a ripoff, but you're legally distinct, like Transformers or Braver or this or that. Like, dope looking game, just so weird that how I guess blatant it is, for lack of a better words. They are about to, yeah, and even this one, coming in due time. This one doesn't even have a date. This one could be like 2-3 years from now. Who play it day one? The game's not even has a release date, but you can play on day one, unless Game Pass is like discontinued at that point. In which point, we don't know. Who cares? Yeah, and then Phil came out. He announced a new Xbox Series X, which, I mean, cool. Bigger hard drive. I don't think there's any other spec, but like, if you have not gotten an Xbox yet, cool. And then, again, just the weird pacing and all that other stuff. He was like, okay, so we got one more thing. The Starfield Direct. It's like, okay, I know you don't have to technically, the one more thing doesn't have to technically be a new reveal, but it just feels like very disheartening. Like, that would be at the point where I'm like, okay, you already are not doing firm dates. You're not even doing like games with CG trailers. Just give us Banjo, give us Perfect Dark, give us Killer Instinct, something, like just literally anything. And then it's all right, cool, Starfield. And I did watch a bit of the Starfield. I didn't watch the whole thing. But it looks good. Like, it looks fantastic. The biggest plus and negative is it very much feels like uh, what is the word? Fallout in space. For all the pros and also cons of that um, as someone who loved Fallout 4, and some other people have told me about their experiences with Skyrim and Fallout 3 and all this other stuff. This is a fantastic looking game. This is so much depth, so much customization, so much option, so much variety, so much different gameplay tweaks, and you know different styles and all this other stuff. Like, this game looks huge, fantastic. Xbox fans are gonna absolutely be eating good with this game. Like, it is going to be a fantastic game. Here's where like Cynic Vince comes out for a second, because I guess the big thing for me is like, I have often discussed this with people how I don't like Microsoft's approach to just buying studios, because you compare it to PlayStation and Nintendo, and they will often have worked with those devs for a long time, or similar styles, or like people who fit the brand of the parent company and this and that. Like, it kind of makes sense why Nintendo would buy this company or that company or whatever. With Xbox, it just seems like they buy who's popular and take it from there. So there isn't one unified Xbox branding. Oh, as I kick the mic some more. Like, even within PlayStation, Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, and Insomniac, all completely different games and studios and styles and philosophies and whatnot. But they all kind of do third-person single-player action games, obviously in different ways, in different styles, and different formats. But they kind of, they feel unified the same. With like, Starfield does not feel like an Xbox game. It just feels like a really good video game, and like, it just doesn't personally match the Xbox brand beyond, well, we paid for this, so this is ours now. Because again, you look at even like Hellblade, and then Starfield, and then Psychonauts, and then Minecraft, and then Forza, and it just feels like Xbox is trying to cover demographics. Like, okay, we need a racer, we need a shooter, we need a puzzle game, we need a family platformer. Like, it doesn't have a unified vision, and I think it's just the fact that, like, it's Fallout in space. Like, if you don't like a Bethesda style game, I don't think this is going to be the one to change your mind. I don't think this is going to be one like, okay, now, like, I'm big into, like, I'm sure there's probably going to be a bit of jank. I'm sure there's going to be some bugs and this and that, and not everything's going to work perfectly 100% of the time. But yeah, I don't know. The game looks good. I'm not trying to take away from that. The game looks fantastic, and I definitely, it is one of those things. Like, if I had access to an Xbox or this other stuff, I absolutely would play this game day one, because the game does look good. But, excuse me, as I gasp out of breath. But yeah, so that's it. We've wrapped up all this other stuff. So, circling back to my original point, Xbox showed a ton of games. The one benefit I had of the PlayStation Showcase is that, not all the games were for me, and not, there wasn't that many hype moments. They showed a good, like, 20, 30 games. So, that in that regard, the PlayStation Showcase was okay. And same with this. Xbox did show games. They showed a bunch of different varieties, a bunch of different genres, a bunch of different developers and locations, and they have games. But, like, even looking at my list, and, like, if, right now, what am I going to put on the thumbnail? Starfield. I guess Persona, because that's big news. I don't know. I really feel like this was, and I feel like we say this every year, this was Xbox's year to come out put its fucking dick on the table and go, we are Xbox, we matter, we're not just third place, we're not just like a second option, we have our own unique brand and voice and style. And Xbox's brand is just the platform, the delivery system, Game Pass, being able to xCloud, all this other stuff. Like, again, I'm gonna make the question: why doesn't Xbox just go third party at this point? They kill it with Design Lab. They kill it with rewards. They kill it with all the clubs, all this other stuff. Like they on the service side, Xbox is fantastic. But as each year goes on and on and on, it's just like, why do I need to own the box? And I know exclusives are like a touchy subject right now. Some people are like, no, everything should be everywhere. Everyone can play everything, all this other stuff. But you look at Nintendo, you look at PlayStation, you even look at like certain mobile or PC games, and it's like, hey, cool, that is that exclusive. That's what that console excels at. In 2023, going into 2024, the only reason to own an Xbox is for Game Pass. And with them introducing Game Pass on PC, on mobile, on TV streaming apps, it's just becoming less and less redundant to own an Xbox. So I don't like. I this was a fine showing. It was not bad. Better than, some years, but I just and this gets into the whole thing about expectations of did I overhype myself? Because again, like what is it? There was no Indiana Jones, no Gears, no Banjo, no Everwild, no Perfect Dark, no like this and that, like a bunch of different stuff. Even Avowed, this technically is like, like I was saying earlier, this is a big re-reveal. Like, they did the teaser. Let's see this. This just feels like another game that you're going to play for a few weeks and then enjoy it, and not like the next big Xbox thing. It's like, oh, okay, this is our quarterly game for, summer 2024. Like, we had to fill a quarter. This game fills that time slot. We've filled our obligations. I don't know. I just want Xbox to get a win. But looking forward into 2024 and like what's on the future and all this other stuff, I don't see Xbox's place change. I don't see like the PS3, they come back near the end of the life cycle and just start like selling like crazy. I think they're gonna be stuck in third place, and there's nothing wrong with that. Xbox is a great platform, but I do think we need to acknowledge that Xbox is not going to have a Switch launch year where they had Zelda and Mario, where they're not going to have the PlayStation E3 where it was like Spider-Man and God of War and Uncharted and all this other stuff. This is Xbox at its best, and their best is just okay.